Happy Monday, everybody! I hope you had a great weekend. Well, I guess not everybody had a great weekend because we all have to think about the greatest, most important aspect of our lives right now. That's right. It's the whole reaction to the Grimmy Gang scandal. Like I said, it's not gonna go away. Hassan made a response and he's trying to laugh it off and shit and try to ignore it, and it's like a full on war between him and Asmongold, in not in the legal sense or any physical sense, but in the ideological sense. There is a war that not only Hassan has lost, but his entire team, his entire side, religion, whatever you want to call it, they're all feeling the burn, the apostasy, the decay of going against, you know, not just Asmongold, but pretty much everybody else, because it's over. The whole grooming gang thing has exploded, and I have a theory as to why Iran has backed down on the deal. There was always probably going to be this, how should I put this, plan B, that if they couldn't invade and win by force of arms, they can subvert us and then win by changing the demographic population, making the women like them and stuff. And then not only has that backfired in comical fashion, right? If we're talking about trying to make yourself look good, then I think you should just stop trying. You know what I mean? You should just stop trying. Stop trying to make yourselves look good because it's only going to make yourselves look worse at this point. And then at the same time, it's also the lack of empathy that you have for basically the people who took you in and gave you everything, food, a language to speak, schools to go to, clubs to go to, and all these things have become like a prison for the Caucasians to be subjugated to not only systematic violence but governmental violence, the violence of having mob rule, having the government in coercion with criminals and corrupt police. I actually think that maybe the police as a whole in the UK are all corrupt, and that it's just a fruitless endeavor. Like I said, it's a fallen state. I hear Labour's gonna win again, but even though Keir Starmer has resigned, and two things have happened in, since the whole protests and all that stuff, Henry Novak, and then subsequently the guy trying to knife somebody, trying to decapitate somebody, all these crazy ass attacks. Like there was this one dude who went shirtless. He went berserker. He took off his shirt and he started going around attacking people with a knife. And it's only the beginning. And the Muslims are obviously retaliating. They're sending out people to go and attack people. So it's only the beginnings of the war that's going to break out in the streets of UK. And it was a long time coming because these people need to be wiped the fuck out. They need to leave the fucking country, if not willingly, by force. And it's like a popular opinion to have, but there are certain lines that you cross that you can't mend. You can't fix. No saying you're sorry, no apologizing, nothing. And in fact, you should go back to your country and expect to get attacked. Expect retaliation. It's just gonna be a global thing now where everyone is just gonna air out their grievances about these people who, are going around the world doing bad things. Really, really, really bad things. And it's being downplayed too. Ah. But I hope everybody had a happy weekend, happy Father's Day, happy days, because there's so much more happy days. Speaking of happy days. So, the Steam Machine price has been revealed. Oh my god, dude. Okay, I'm gonna yep, it's American. Oh god damn it. So like their base model is like $1,000, right? American USD. And then they're like 2 terabyte model because all it is the same specifications. You're not getting like a PlayStation Plus or whatever, like a better, GPU or CPU or whatever. No, you're just getting extra storage and maybe like a controller and some other shit. Just like some basic shit. And then it's like $1,500. $1,500 American. Welcome to the future of gaming, dude. But that's how you know that like this console has to be future proofed because no one in their right mind would be selling a console for that price unless it was like future proofed to the extent of like okay, it can play like a bunch of PC games that have like fit the requirements of like what was it again, like 8 gigs of RAM or some shit like that. No, 8 gigs of like video memory and then like 16 gigs of RAM or some shit like that, DDR, or I don't know, maybe less, maybe more. But what I'm saying is, it's like they have confidence in their box, their magical box, you know. And speaking of like confidence and stuff, right? Hassan's like fucking snapping because he lost. He lost in a complete and utter like comical fashion to Asmongold, right? And I know that like this is such a U-turn from like the topic I was talking about, the Steam machine, but it's almost as if like he couldn't pay the price, just like everybody else can't pay like $1,500. He can't pay the price of going against Asmongold. He's just too powerful, you know. And now his career is completely over. He'll always be a mumbling jackass who like has to complain and try to push his Islamofascism. And like I said, um, towards the end, when he was like, and this was in the report, mind you, they're going through like the reasons as to why they were doing this to these white women. They were like quoting the Quran and like using those verses as a reason as to like this is why they deserve to be treated like this. They're sex slaves, this and that, right? I could tell that Hassan was just gonna fucking flip his lid, and it's over, dude. You can't remain impartial. You're always gonna have to drag your fucking religion into this, and you're always going to be a corrupt source of opinion. Because nobody really cares what a religious fanatic has to say or think. I mean, obviously, a lot of your fan base is like this masochistic or psychotic verse of like people with massive amounts of problems. Like you have problems. These people have problems. You know, because the idea that people have to bend over backwards and like accept complacency in a world where they just don't want to anymore. And I can get behind them, but like the thing is like the kettle's getting boiled over. Like it's also burning into like the whole Indian aspect, all like immigration as a whole. Like the problem with the grooming gang scandal being like brought out wasn't just the fact that like the Muslims and the Pakistanis in specificity were involved, but also like all the parties that were around them. So like the British government, media, other individuals, families, females, right? Like that's like probably like the biggest, whatever, right? And I'm glad that Asmongold actually reacted to that video of that one, like I think he's like a mulatto looking dude, like half black, half white, and he's like, "Yo, these girls, they're okay with it." And he even said in the video, "These poor guys." What do you mean, poor guys? Evil you have to be to make a video like that. It's almost as bad as Donna Rachel laughing at like in response to like the Grooming Gang video coming out over like fucking details that are just like they're just dumb, they're trivial, and like she's wrong too. Like you can also refer to county lines as different parts of the county, different areas. You're an idiot. It's not just telephone lines. You fucking dunce. And like, you know, you can tell that like, yo, these sick people get off on the fact that like these hot white women, or like maybe just like young white women to them, that just gets them off or something. Like, you know how like people are vindictive towards attractive people or people who have, you know, greater status than them, and in any form or like shape, they'll just like, you know, metaphorically speaking, you know, use daggers to like, you know, jab at them and shit. And you find this with like so many people with this like grooming gang scandal. It's illuminating, right? Like, it's two-sided. Either you take the side of humans and you side with the victims on the grooming gang scandal, or you just like, you know, either turn your nose up at it or side with like the perpetrators, and you're fucking against you, and you're, you know, you're against humanity. You know what I mean? And like this idea, right, that I'm gonna go out there and try to have all these kids and prevent all these other motherfuckers from having, you know, kids as a result of me having all these like, you know, different wives and shit, actually sounds like a good idea now. Like a 100% good idea. Like, who's gonna fucking argue with me? Some fucking retard out there that's like, yo, we should like, you know, give what is it again? Give freedom to the Palestinians and shit, especially after what they did to the Israelis and stuff, and like, you know, attacking their civilians and shit. The craziest thing too was when initially, when America was signing the deal with Iran, the Israelis were like fucking losing their shit, and like I felt for their pain, you know what I mean? But again, like part of this, the reason why the deal was signed is there's not enough boots on the ground. Like there is a huge problem with in the Jewish community that like a lot of people are against the war, right? And whether they're galvanized by the media or they're genuinely like, you know, taken it by the idea that, you know, their people are just somehow inherently evil and shit. It's a huge problem. And then the echoes of that is where everybody else judges the Jewish people for defending their own, you know, land, sovereign nation, people, etc. And like they ignore the torture and like the agony that they go through and pretend it's just them until it's too late. Like I think like the people of the United Kingdom, specifically the Caucasians, are going to more or less stand in solidarity with the people of Israel probably throughout the history of time forever, because they're the only people close enough to understand what it's like to go through the same shit that the Israelis have went through, in my opinion. Because it's like I have to be naive to think that it's just the British people. It's just Israeli people. It's just, you know, it's everybody now. We're all dealing with it now, right? It comes in many forms. The Hydra comes in many forms, right? You have people who are in government, in positions of power, in the media, the Hydra of all these heads. And whenever you cut off one of the heads, it's like, you know, they come at you with like terrorist attacks and stuff. I just saw a video by Baraka Amori, and we can't confirm, but it's this car just like driving through like a crowd and stuff. But like luckily it only like hit a few people and then it like smacked into a pole, and then for some reason it jackknifed back into the street. So it like it could have been an attack, but it could have been a car accident. And like I'm just gonna like say that it's a speculation, right? So like these things, plus also Muslims are going around wearing masks, having weapons and shit. Why are they allowed to do this? Why is it like the white people or any other group of people who does this, right? They get arrested instantly, but like when it's like Arabs and stuff, Muslims, they get like fucking special protection. They got hammers and knives and all that shit, masks, all that shit. Nah, fuck that. Fucking blast them. And then I gotta say it, man. They gotta go back to their country. They, all of them gotta go back to their country. This bullshit, where you can try to like, you know, change the demographic forcefully, vote your way in, change the laws, put like Sharia law, fucking tell people to cover up and stuff. You know, get the fuck back to your country, you fucking retards. And history's always gonna remember you as the fucking losers that you are. And that's why Iran's making, you know, this fucking, you know, stick in the mud, because it's like They know their entire race and religion is gone, completely gone. And the deal is just like mercy for them. It's just like them hanging on by that thread of a dream, to a world where, oh, we could develop nuclear missiles, we could develop nuclear weapons, we could challenge America, we could win this. What happened to Russia again? What happened to Moscow? Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I wonder how China's feeling about all this shit. It's just like, damn, all these people like together, their incompetence has like dragged us down. Like our allegiance with them has done nothing but like it's given us money and a little bit of security, but at the same time, it's been a bit of a fucking pain in the ass. It's like embarrassing to think that like we're this weak and shit. Dude, and also like the COVID shit coming out. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're living in one of those times where you just have to start grasping at and appreciating those moments when you're like working out and stuff and realizing like the competition has been bulldozed. It's kind of unfair, but like it's funny in a way because it's like you can kind of feel for like the longest time that like groups of people had unfair advantages, and like you don't want to necessarily call it out, but it's just like what the fuck, man. You have these fucking unfair advantages, and they got cursed. That's right. Oh, they got cursed. The curse of Asher. The only person who has all those advantages now is me. That's right. Only me. Only I'm allowed. Oh, for me. My advantages. Not for you, it's for me now. No minority support. Only Azure support. Only for me. Hi, Dad. Hello. Yeah, that was my dad. He was like caught in traffic. So, anyways, we gotta talk about like the long game of like people who want to play that. Like that was the idea for like a lot of these refugees, but that they were just gonna play the long game, like work their way into the system, back it up, make it so that like deporting them was just like an impossibility, inconvenience. They got advice from like various NGOs. And like this is going back to like some Israeli NGOs, the bad blood I said between some Europeans and some of these Israelis, these Jews, the dark Jews. It's quite a mess. And like I think the worst aspect is like the idea that forgiveness is granted, where I see that as tenuous at best. Like I can very much see somebody snapping at me in the near future just for being brown or just for having like a dot on my forehead and shit. And like as much as I can crank up my like flamboyancy, like it's always going to be an identifying factor that makes a lot of people uncomfortable about my ethnicity and my background, possible religion, this, that, right? And it's going to extend to like large groups of people because this intimidation factor, and I think like the ruthlessness, my mouth is so dry. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. The ruthlessness of it all is what makes it so prevalent. It's going to be very much one of those things that I think the boiling point will be the art form, if you will. So it'll come in like three different shapes, if you will. So possibly a book, possibly a movie, and then possibly, I don't know, the third one. I guess just those two.
because I don't know how else you can convey it, right? Video game, that, uh, yeah, like the whole scale of it, industrial scale, and like it's kind of telling how you have like the nonchalant, almost like dismissive attitude towards these individuals from like various figureheads, specifically on the left, but like in general, like speaking like that one guy, yeah, the TikTok and shit, fucking scum of the earth. He is scum of the earth, and you have to make sure and realize that being strong, being a man, and taking charge in life is more important than ever because they have to be factored out now. You have to think about what's it like to have contact with multiple in-laws and shit, which will sound kind of baffling at first, but when you realize the real like the utility of it, not just for you, but like for all parties involved, right? And this isn't for everybody because it's like it's not something that like guys who suffer from like certain issues can handle, right? Like it's very much something that is left up to the female party or parties in this instance. And I think like you have to think about it in a pragmatic sense of like oxygen, fire, and the depletion of said oxygen to extinguish the fire, right? Or if the oxygen, yeah, just take up all the oxygen in the room, just breathe it all in, breathe in all that fresh air, like I understand that like these metaphors might go over some people's heads and stuff, but I think that the fear that people are trying to um, seed in you, like they're trying to plant this fear in you where you're unsure of yourself and you're just going to do something erratic, right? You shouldn't have it so much because your enemies are already thwarted, they've lost, they're cowering. Trump has basically threatened Iran. Like the war's back on and stuff, basically. Like it's kind of exhausting, but to be expected because it is the price we pay for our victory. Like we are, purveying over subhumans and evil people who just can't understand like humility or having soul or the suffering of countless thousands of young girls throughout the United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, take care.